Millionaire invites her black maid son to play chess as a joke. She didn't know he was a child genius. Come here, boy. How about showing me how you play chess in the slums? Mrs. Victoria Whitman's voice echoed through the living room of her Beverly Hills mansion, laden with the arrogance typical of someone who has never had to earn anything on her own. Diego Santos, 17, was helping his mother Carmen serve guests at a charity dinner when the millionaire decided to make him the evening's entertainment. The other guests, businessmen, politicians, and their bored wives, laughed discreetly behind their 1,000 champagne glasses. Victoria had organized the event to raise funds for underprivileged youth, but clearly she hadn't expected to have one of them serving canapés in her own home. The irony was delicious to her. I bet he can at least move the pieces, Victoria continued, gesturing toward the Italian chessboard that decorated the coffee table. It'll be fun to see what this boy can do against someone who's actually studied the game. Mr. Hamilton, owner of 3 hotel chains, whispered to his wife, I bet he doesn't even know the knight moves in an L shape. Laughter spread through the room like waves on a lake of superiority. Diego's mother, Carmen, lowered her eyes and clenched her fist around the silver tray. 20 years cleaning that house, raising her son alone on a maid's salary, and she still had to watch her boss use her boy as a joke to impress her rich friends? She had known Victoria since she was young. She had seen the woman transform from a spoiled heiress into a cruel socialite over the years. Carmen, you can stop serving for a few minutes, Victoria ordered with false kindness. I want you to watch your son play. It'll be educational for both of you. Diego, however, remains motionless for a few seconds, his dark eyes analyzing not only the board, but every face in the room. At 17, he had already learned that silence often reveals more about people than 1,000 words, and at that moment, what he saw was a group of privileged adults who had no idea who they were dealing with. There was something about Diego's posture that made some of the guests stop laughing, a strange stillness, like the calm before the storm. His fingers moved unconsciously, as if you were visualizing moves on an invisible board. Of course, Mrs. Whitman, Diego replied with a calmness that made some of the guests exchange curious glances. It will be my pleasure. Victoria smiled with satisfaction, settling into the leather armchair like a queen preparing to watch gladiators. Excellent. I bet you've never played on a board like this, have you? Genuine Italian marble, each piece worth more than, well, you know. State Representative Jennifer Mills, sitting near the window, commented out loud, Victoria, are you sure this isn't cruel? The poor boy is going to be humiliated. Nonsense, Victoria retorted, adjusting her diamond earrings. It's a learning opportunity. He'll tell his friends he played chess in a real mansion. What Victoria Whitman didn't know, and would find out in the worst possible way, was that this slum kid had spent the last 8 years studying every opening, every strategy, every trap the grandmasters had ever devised. While his schoolmates played video games, Diego devoured chess books borrowed from the public library and watched legendary matches on the broken computer he had managed to fix himself. In the silent early hours of the morning, when Carmen worked double shifts cleaning, Diego analyzed games by Kasparov, Fischer, and Carlsen. He had memorized more than 200 different openings and could recite the 50 most famous defenses in chess history by heart. But most importantly, she had no idea that she was about to be humiliated by the same boy she had underestimated out of pure prejudice, in front of all her powerful friends. And when the truth came out, it wouldn't just be a chess defeat. It would be a lesson she would carry with her for the rest of her life. While Victoria arranged the pieces with theatrical movements, Diego watched each guest. Something in his eyes suggested that he wasn't just preparing for a game. He was preparing to rewrite every assumption in that room about who really deserved respect. If this story of prejudice and overcoming adversity has touched you, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because what happened next showed that judging someone by their appearance can be the most expensive mistake a person makes in their life. Victoria took her place on the white side with the confidence of someone who had never lost anything important in her life. I always play white, dear. It's a family tradition, she said, completely ignoring the fact that in serious chess, the color of the pieces is decided by drawing lots. Diego nodded silently and arranged his black pieces with a precision that made Mr. Hamilton frown. Each piece was placed exactly in the center of its square, perfectly aligned, as if that Italian marble board was just one of the hundreds he had faced before. "Let's make this interesting," Victoria announced to the guests. "If the boy manages to give me even one scare, I'll donate $1,000 to, I don't know, some public school." Laughter echoed through the room again, but this time Diego looked up and smiled, a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Carmen felt a chill run down her spine. She knew that smile. It was the same one Diego had as a child whenever someone underestimated him in school competitions. The same one he used at 12 when he said he no longer needed her help with his math homework. Victoria opened the game with a conservative pawn move, E4. "Indian king, dear. A classic opening we learned at Harvard," she explains condescendingly, as if she were teaching a child to tie their shoes. Diego responded instantly, C5, the Sicilian defense. An awkward silence filled the room. That wasn't the move of someone who might know how to move the pieces. It was the response of someone who knew theory. "Interesting," murmured Congresswoman Mills, leaning forward. Victoria hesitated for 3 seconds, long enough for Diego to realize that she had memorized half a dozen openings, but didn't really understand the principles behind them. She played Engine F3, following a pattern she probably learned at some social club. While Victoria thought about her next move, Diego allowed himself a brief trip down memory lane. 8 years earlier, when he was only 9, he had found a torn chessbook in the library trash. He had taken it home, hidden in his backpack, and asked Carmen to teach him the basic rules. "Mijo, why do you want to learn that?" his mother asked, exhausted after a double shift cleaning. "To be like the rich kids, Mom. They always say they're smarter than us." At that time, Carmen earned only $600 a month. There was no money for lessons, for a computer, for anything. But there was the public library, which became Diego's second home. Every day after school, he walked 3 kilometers to study historical games in dusty books that no one else touched. Victoria finally played D3, a timid move that revealed her conservative nature in chess and in life. She preferred safe control positions where social class could guarantee victory. Diego responded with NC6, developing with purpose. Each of his moves was executed in less than 5 seconds, as if he were following a mental script he had memorized years ago. "Our little boy is moving too fast," Victoria commented to the guests. "In real chess, you think before you play." That's when Diego made his first psychological mistake. He paused, pretended to think deeply for 15 seconds, and played G6, preparing the bishop's fianchetto. It was a move that any beginner would make instinctively, but it was actually part of a complex strategic plan that would take 10 more moves to reveal itself. "Ah, you see?" Victoria turned triumphantly to the guests. "He doesn't have the patience to think. Typical." But Mr. Hamilton, who had played chess at university 40 years ago, recognized the pattern. "Victoria, this boy is setting up a fast dragon." "What?" she replied, annoyed at being interrupted during her demonstration of superiority. "It's a variation of the Sicilian, quite sophisticated." Victoria looked at the board with a new tension in her shoulders. Nonsense. He must have seen it in a movie. But as the moves progressed, something unsettling began to take shape. Diego wasn't just responding to her moves. He was dictating the pace of the game. Every piece he developed occupied exactly the right square, creating a harmony that transformed the board into something resembling a visual symphony. Carmen watched from the corner of the room, her heart racing. She knew Diego was good, but she had never seen him play against someone who took herself so seriously. And for the first time in 20 years of working in that house, she saw fear in Victoria Whitman. The fear of discovering that maybe, just maybe, she wasn't as special as she had always believed. Each new humiliation Victoria tried to impose only fed something inside her that she couldn't see, a silent strength being strengthened by the very injustice she was trying to impose. What those privileged people didn't know was that every act of contempt was signing their own sentence, written on the 64 squares of that board that would soon become the stage for one of the greatest humiliations in the social history of Beverly Hills. Diego's 10th move revealed something that made Mr. Hamilton choke on his whiskey. The boy had sacrificed a pawn in a seemingly innocent move, but any experienced player would recognize the deadly trap that was being set. "Victoria," Hamilton whispered urgently, "this boy is no amateur." But Victoria was too determined to prove her superiority to listen to warnings. "Relax, dear. He must have memorized a few moves from the internet. I'll be done with this in 5 minutes." That's when Diego did something unexpected. He calmly rose from his chair and walked over to Carmen, who was watching everything from the corner of the room with her hands clasped together. "Mom," he said in a low voice that echoed through the tense silence of the room, "remember when you said that one day